Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Justin Bartley. Hi, Justin.
Hi, Addie.
How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. It feels like it's November right now though in Chicago. It's about 49 degrees and raining all day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Otherwise, life is good.
Good. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, Justin, well, let me introduce you. First of all, you and I we met at a Success Society that Brian Kaskavalchin from the Wealthy Contractor, Brian and Adi Kaskavalchin, good friends. And I interviewed, Adi was on my podcast twice, and they run the Success Society, part of the Wealthy Contractor, which is a mastermind for successful contractors in the trades. And you are one of the leaders, one of the coaches there. And we got to talk, and I was like, well, Justin, what you created here with systems, and you really get it. I have to have you on the podcast so we can talk about systems. So here's your bio. So you grew up working in the alleys of Chicago, installing garage doors, where you innovated, as a group, right? The same day service and installations. And today you have learned to use your OCD tendencies, basically like how you like to organize. I don't necessarily like labels, but it's kind of like your tendency to have order, to systematize and optimize the customer experience.
Yeah, that's right. I grew up in home services and grew up out in the field installing. And
then what happened? So from that point to now, tell us your story.
Well, a lot has happened through those years, but yeah, basically learned home improvement at an early age and learned the importance of the customer experience. And it was all driven by speed and efficiency. And with garage doors, if a customer has a problem, they want it done today. And I would say that they were, ahead of their time back then, 30 years ago, really, when I first started in that industry, that same day concept that everybody really wants from everything today due to the Amazon effect. That was something we innovated back then to help people with their home improvements the same day. And, out of that, just grew the focus on the customer and how can you systemize everything so that the customers have a consistent experience every time, and a consistently good one that they tell their friends about and keep calling you back for more. So it's just really that's the definition of a system, franchising the system so that it's repeatable, and as you grow, you're able to train people on those systems.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that system. Let's talk about the system of the customer experience. So if you had to summarize, first of all, an outline of the key steps of that system, what would that be?
Well, there's a lot to it, in the business we're in now is full window, entry door, and patio door replacement. So it's much different than my days as a garage door installer in that business, where it was very much service based, doing it same day, even installing the doors the same day with a much more, a lot less customization. So in window replacement, everything is custom. Every window is custom ordered by size and color. So the nature of the industry is a little bit different with the customer experience.
Our listeners come from different industries, right? And you also help different industries. So some of them can be like something immediate, but it also depends on the urgency, because with the garage door, if it breaks, you need to get into your garage, you need to get out of your garage, and it's a security point. You don't want to leave the garage door open, so there is urgency. If you want new windows, it is urgent, but it's not super urgent. I mean, you can wait, right? Especially if you want to customize it. I mean, yeah, if it's a repair, yes, you have to figure it out fast, so you don't get your rain in the house. But in general, we have different industries with different lead time, so long
Yeah.
as it's
Yes.
it makes sense, it's reasonable. So, but let's take a look at the overall points in like the overall system of how to create a really good customer experience. So if you had to look at it, what will be the main points that every business should have and implement in order to have a good customer experience?
Yeah, well, I think it all starts with really understanding the customer journey, which speaks to different industries. They're all going to be slightly different, but I think it's really understanding the customer journey from the very first phone call that comes into your business and how that's handled, and the sales experience with your salespeople, and then once you have a customer, what happens once they buy your product, and what are the steps that happen, and how long is that time frame. And these will all vary by industry, but really understanding from the customer standpoint that whole journey, I think, is step one, to really map it out on paper and understand everything that happens from, again, from that first phone call all the way through the installation, and then what happens after the installation, to make sure you're serving that customer, to maximize the lifetime value of the customer from a service standpoint and also from a marketing standpoint. So I think that's really where it all starts, is really
I think you're
understanding.
right, and I think one of the things that I observed when somebody does the customer journey correctly, you also you have the different phases as you describe them, and then I think it's important to also identify the mindset and the emotional stage or the emotional state of the typical customer in each one of those stages, so you can actually cater to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it at that point it does come down to communication and how you handle that customer, setting up the proper expectations, and then following up with the proper amount of touch points along the way. When you talk about communication with a window purchase, it could be 8 or 10 weeks from the contract signing until the actual installation. And so you want to have a very tailored process for those 8 to 10 weeks, so that your customer feels that they're in the loop that whole time, from what maybe it's contract confirmations, texting, email, uh, touch points me every 10 to 14 days. That is, I think, what people expect today.
Agree.
So they feel
And
they're in the loop.
yeah. So if there is a void in your process because you're doing something behind the scenes, you still need to get the communication out to your customers so they are not left wondering what is happening. So I agree with that.
Yes, and what we do here at Next Door Windows, we have basically, it's a customer blueprint. We call it what comes next. So we give that to them. It's a one-page diagram that basically says, here's what happens, in week 1 to 2, weeks 2 to 4, 4 to 6, and it's that whole 8 to 10 week timeline all on a sheet of paper that gives the customer insights as to what's happening behind the scenes during those times, so they feel that their project is moving forward, even though it doesn't seem like it because they're just waiting. But it gives them a good understanding and transparency about what's happening behind the scenes. So you present that up front so they have a really good understanding of it and set those expectations. And then the company has to execute to make sure that the customer is receiving those touch points, and hopefully the project is on target, according to the schedule you gave them.
Yeah, I
So
think it's brilliant. I think it is absolutely brilliant to do that because and it's necessary because otherwise they're wondering about it. But that's very similar like, to the mortgage industry. Like when you take a mortgage, they send you to, okay, what's next? Here you are. This is on the road. This is where you are at. What comes next? So then you're not wondering what is the next step and why am I doing it? So I think it's brilliant. What changes have you seen after implementing that tool with your customers?
Well, something that, that happens at the end of the process is that we survey all of our customers. We use a third-party survey company who uses texting, emails, and phone calls. So we get a high response rate from our customers. And for us, that's the best way to learn about the customer's experiences, to get them to answer questions. And the survey we use actually, it surveys really every part of that customer journey. So we're able to get about 50 to 60% of our customers to respond to the surveys, talking about that whole customer journey. So it's not just give us 5 stars and a comment. It's how was the initial phone call? How was the sales experience? How was the communication? How was the project manager? How was the installation crew? How was their cleanup? How was our follow through? So there's about 14 questions, and it's the whole customer journey, and we get all that data from our customers, so we can really look at it and learn where are the gaps, because you asked about what did we learn. And I think the biggest thing we learned is that our customers wanted more communication, because that's where we saw probably the biggest opportunity. They were really happy with the installation crew. They almost always like the salesperson. Even, we have a great service department, so the follow-up seemed to be good most of the time. But the biggest opportunity we saw really was in the communication. And that's when we realized that, okay, our customers waiting 10 weeks and we're not communicating enough with them. Yes, we told them in the beginning it's going to take about 10 weeks, but the customer was anxious because in home improvement, they often give a deposit. And so they give us some money down, and the customer is now nervous because they just handed over maybe 30% of a project. Maybe they give us $10,000, and now they're waiting 10 weeks and they get a little anxious. So what we found is our customers wanted more communication, and that's what we found in the surveys, because survey after survey, we're looking for 95% out of 100, and we were seeing our communication in the 80s. And when you really look at the data, it was clear that was our big opportunity to improve the amount of touch points. And so that's probably the biggest thing we learned was we need to communicate with people and where they're at. And we were sending a lot of emails, and I think a lot of the emails were going into into the junk. And so we really encourage people to accept our texts and try to get their cell phones. So it seems like we've been much more effective with texting updates regularly. And we've started using a new system it's a third-party vendor we use called QuickPage. And it allows our sales team and our project managers, in this case, the project managers, they actually can do a quick video update to the customer. So they can look in their phone, they could do a quick, "Hi, Mrs. Jones, this is Justin from Next Door and Window. Just want to let you know that we just ordered your windows today. Everything's on schedule. We expect them to take about 4 or 5 weeks. As soon as they come in, we'll give you a call to schedule the install." And we text that to
that's
them.
very interesting, because I had a great interview, for instance, with Victor Cho a few weeks ago, when we talked about the importance in this AI age to actually have that human connection. So communicate via video, communicate via audio. I just had an interview that I did with Angela Cote about the same aspect of we need to maintain the human element so they can listen to us and hear that there is a human and not just an AI robot, right? Because that obviously, when the AI robot functions correctly, then it saves time to you as the business owner, it saves time to me as the customer. But hearing that connection really, really, I mean, I think it has a great effect. I mean, did you notice that people like that?
They do like it, and it's still convenient for the customer. What we do know is customers do not want to talk to us on the phone, most of them, and they don't want us to take their time away from them. But with the text video, you can still achieve that face-to-face engagement, so the customer can see, okay, this is a real person behind this company, which is really important for that engagement, for the customer to feel like they're dealing with people, not just this company, but actually real people. And they can, just get a little bit more, I think just engagement is the best way to put it. And they feel that there's someone on the behind the text there that they can trust, and they can call or text this person, the project manager, at any time. So
Absolutely.
that's something we added over this past year that has really helped, I think, with our customers, and we have gotten a lot of comments about that they like just, the extra added touch of uh, knowing that there's someone behind the work doing, working on their project for them.
I think it's brilliant. Any other tips or advice of things that you added, that you learned that your customers really want?
From a technology standpoint, on the front end, to kind of take a step back, because we were kind of talking about what, once they're already a customer, but on the front end, we did add some technology through texting that, uh, if someone goes online and searches for Windows or searches our company, and they arrive on our page and they're interested, they fill out the form. Everybody has the form, and when the form comes into our company, it triggers an automatic text campaign that, allows the consumer to schedule their appointment right through the text, so they don't have to talk to anybody or call. Our calendar's connected right to the text program, so it's an automated nurture system that will send a text every few days with some messaging about our brand and why, it'd be a great opportunity to have us come out to look at their project. And it asks to schedule the appointment, and it allows the customer to pick the appointment time right then and there in the text at their own time. It could be anytime, 24/7. And again, the point is, let the customer decide how they want to communicate with us and at what time they want to do it. And if it's at, midnight, that's fine. They could still schedule their appointment at midnight, and they don't have to talk to anybody. So that's another tool that we've seen a lot of traction with. I think it's about almost 2 years now we've been using that, and every probably almost every month to every quarter, maybe every quarter, we're seeing increases in the amount of people using this technology. As people are just more comfortable with it, and let's be honest, maybe it's just the younger generation. They'd rather just communicate through the technology. They don't necessarily want to talk to somebody. So I think that's a trend that is probably not going away.
Yeah, it's instant. It's like instant, to the point. Busy professionals too. I mean, I prefer that way, so long as I can get my questions answered, and then talk to a human when I actually have questions that cannot be answered by the machine. I think the frustration happens is when you actually need to talk to a human, and all you're giving to is just a machine that keeps repeating the same thing and then telling you that they can't help you. Then it becomes
Yeah,
frustrating. But I think improving, now from a business standpoint, if you invest in good technology that is usable and allow your customers to use it, then you can allocate the resources necessary to have very high quality customer service when somebody actually needs to talk to you.
right.
So
And
that
yes,
is I think the give and take here.
yeah, and home improvement is it's very much an in-person business, as we know. I mean, we're going into people's homes, This isn't Amazon. And so, yes, we definitely still need a lot of humans involved, and we have to have that accessibility for the customer to be able to talk to a person and maybe get more complex questions answered, about their project or about the products they want to buy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Justin, we're all about systems. We go into businesses and we systematize and we document and we optimize. So, from your experience, from all those years in the industry and being very successful and getting to where you are today, what is the role that processes, how important are processes in success of a business?
Well, if you ever want to scale beyond yourself, you need systems and processes. And that's probably a hurdle that takes some of us a lot longer than others to realize, but it's also the most freeing once you do realize it, that once you can get everything out of your head onto the paper as to how things run, in the most efficient way possible, you can then hire other people to come in to do these things and improve them as they go, and find people probably that are much better than you who can take these systems and execute them. So, I think that it's the key to creating that consistency in the customer experience, just also just increase profitability, just maximizing profits and maximizing the efficiency of the business overall. All happens based on systems, or the recipe. Like when we hire new people and we do training on processes, we always ask them, what their favorite restaurant is, and you hear all sorts of things from fast food to more high end niche restaurants, but they all say they like it because the food's great and the atmosphere is good, and they know when they go back, they're going to get the same experience.
It's the
And so it's that
success replicated.
repeatable, it's the recipe. That's what we call it here too. Like our recipe for home improvements, how do we make it so that it's great, and that if a customer calls us back, it's great again and again and again. When they tell their friend, it's great for their friend. And home improvement is I would argue, much more complicated than serving food because of so many unknowns, but you can still systemize almost every part of the process of your company to make it much more efficient and to make it scalable, which is probably, from any business owner who wants personal freedom away from the business, that can only happen once you have really good processes and then hire really good people who can take it and run with it.
That's very true, because then you can hire very good people and not necessarily that they have the experience, and because you can train them. So then you can have the combination of a good person and somebody that can produce exactly like replicating the success as you mentioned. That's right. So Justin, what made you want to now be a coach and help others? What motivated you to do that?
Well, I think that as a business owner, I've always had that desire to, help customers, but also, create a great place where, our people, our team members can come and work and learn. And so I think it's been a 23-year journey in my company here at Next Door and Window to try and create, the best place for people to work. And I think we've done a good job at that, and we're definitely always learning and trying to improve. And at the same time, uh, the whole industry needs help. When I look at my journey, it could be very painful the first few years of working. Most of us do work 80 hours plus to get started. But, there's a difference between doing it all yourself and being able to grow and scale, and building a great team. So learning those things through the years, I think when you get success, you want to help other people to maybe save them time in their journey as well, and impart those things to others. So I think that's where I'm at in my career. It's something I feel that I get fulfillment from, and also, hopefully there's value out there for people that can maybe. There's no replacing the hard work and the grind. There's no replacing that, but there are ways to maybe make some shortcuts along the way.
Or learn from others, learn from others'
Right.
experience. Yeah.
So although there's no replacement for going through all the challenges, a good coach can definitely help maybe save years of maybe going down the wrong direction, or just finding ways to optimize your business. And so that's what I like to do is, if I can help some people, I'm happy to do that.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. Well, Justin, if people want to reach out to you and learn more about what you do and ask you questions, how they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, probably the best way would be to email me, justin@nextdooranddwindow.com. And we run a nice window and door business here in Chicago and Madison, Wisconsin. And we have a great team here, a growing team. And, but we're also, we're willing to help out, if anyone has questions on anything from marketing and sales or systems, we're always happy to contribute to the industry as well, and help other companies out.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you for your generosity and your offer. And I'm sure our listeners, if you would like to get a hold of Justin, so reach out. And Justin, thank you so much for being a guest on this podcast and sharing your experience and your expertise. Very much appreciated.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. Glad to be here today, and all the best to you as well.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.